Welcome to The Buzz. We're going to have some fun, hear things you'll never hear anywhere else, and learn how to take 1 hour off your marathon PR. That may be an exaggeration, but I am Buzz Burrell, and we're going to have real conversations with the people who help define this amazing sport of running, which often feels like more than just a sport. So send me your questions and comments to buzz@ultrasignup.com so we can do this together. This is a production of Ultra Sign Up. Thank you for joining me. This is Buzz Burrell. I hope you're enjoying The Buzz. And don't forget that Ultra Sign Up has 2 other shows on its podcast network. Check out The Trailhead with Zoe Rome and Brendan Leonard, where they celebrate the quirks and culture of trail running as only those 2 can do. And Between 2 Pines, our offbeat, laugh-out-loud show with Dom Grossman and Andy Pearson. And here's something new. Both The Buzz and The Trailhead are now on YouTube. So whether you want to listen on the run or watch from home, we've got you covered. Just search for Ultra Sign Up on YouTube and hit subscribe. Arc'teryx is the revered manufacturer of mountain clothing and is continuing its big push into running shoes with the new Nivalis, a shoe especially for winter. The Norvon 4 Nivalis has a full Gore-Tex cover and ankle gaiter. There are other Gore-Tex shoes on the market, but if the laces and tongue are showing, water just enters through those openings. The full Gore-Tex cover is the only way to keep your feet dry and warm. The Nivalis is the winter version of the successful Norvon with a Vibram light base outsole and deep 6mm lugs. It's great for running or hiking, and it looks as good as it performs. Happy fall, everyone. And there's snow in the mountains, but we're not in the mountains. We're down here in sunny Moab, Colorado, where the Moab 240 race just concluded. 240 means 240 miles, by the way. And I'm speaking here in Moab with the winner, Killian Korth. Welcome, Killian.
Hey, thanks. It's great to be here.
Now, this guy just won a 240-mile race, so you might be wondering, wow, doesn't this guy need to go to sleep? And the race literally just finished. It is 10:16 a.m. on Wednesday here in Moab. The race literally finished 1 hour ago. But Killian, you finished 2.5 days ago.
Yeah, 10 p.m. on Sunday night. So I've had a full day at home and a shower and a few meals.
So let's just wrap our head around this. This is kind of interesting. So you were out there for 2 days, 10 hours, a new course record. That's 58 straight hours. So I come in yesterday, day before evening, and see Candace Bird, the race director, who was on the previous episode of this podcast. Make sure you get that. I said, hey, Candace, I'm going to be talking to Killian here pretty soon after he recovers. And Candace says, oh, he's already recovered. He finished last night.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what you mean by recovered. It takes a little while longer to feel normal, but I have had, time to gather my thoughts and at least eat some real food.
Well, let's just continue to contextualize this. We're going to get into what you did and how you did it and tips for the rest of us. But to continue with the Moab 240, you literally won it by 11 hours. But you announced this. You said this, a couple of months ago. You said you're going to get after it. You're going to throw down. You're going to go for the course record. You weren't shy about it. Candace told me this a couple of weeks ago, and you did just that. I mean, did you ever see another runner?
So I ran with Brody Chisholm for the first 52 miles or thereabouts.
Oh, okay.
So we had a lot of time to chat, which was nice. And he came second at Bigfoot. So he was, who I was kind of thinking of as primary competition for this race. But then after that, after we separated at the Oasis, I didn't see another runner. I luckily had pacers for every section that I was allowed to have pacers. So, I wasn't super lonely out there. But yeah, I mean, I just kind of kept hearing news about the tracker, and eventually that sort of just became irrelevant, as like I was attempting to press on and hold myself accountable to my goals rather than, feeling the pressure from behind, if that makes sense.
Right. You had you had your spreadsheet, so to speak, at all
Yeah.
the aid stations, you know, you're in and out.
Yeah, exactly. I do sort of make, split sheets and try to keep those times. I don't put too much emphasis on those because I don't want to be behind on those and then get all up in my head about that. I mean, my A goal coming into the race was 55 hours with the conditions being what they were. That seemed difficult many, many, many times, but I just didn't want to, walk it in and feel super comfortable. I was just attempting to do something special rather than kind of just end up with the finish and a solid time. I wanted a really good time.
Right. I like the way you put that. Instead of just walking it in, you had such a lead, you could have just walked it in. I mean, there was no problem. You didn't have to run a step after a certain point. You still would have finished first, but you wanted to finish with style and finish feeling good about the effort.
Yeah, exactly. And I think one of the things that I like about my approach to this race is that I had a lot on the line. I had the Triple Crown. I had this individual race. And with the Triple Crown being goal number one and Moab being ultimately secondary to that, I could have chosen to play it safe and sort of go for, the overall Triple Crown record and not necessarily try to push as much as possible at Moab specifically. But I really didn't play it safe. And so that theme continued throughout the whole race, even towards Porcupine Rim at the very end. I was just trying to be as efficient and as fast as possible in every section, even when it was muddy, even rainy, and through all the unexpected challenges that arose.
Wow. Good call. You didn't play it safe. Let's back this up so everyone understands what Killian's talking about. The Triple Crown. As we heard in the last episode with Candace Burt, that's the 200 milers, although Moab is 240. And this would be Tahoe Rim, held in June. And you won that rather handily. These are the big events. That has 36,857 feet of elevation gain. You won it by 3 hours and 20 minutes. Huh. And then the Bigfoot 200, August in Washington State. Wow. You were second on the all-time list there. But the course changes.
Yeah, course changes. It's hard to talk about the course records with any of these because the course stuff changed enough that it sort of becomes a detailed game of what minutia really matters here. What I'm confident in saying is that the Bigfoot was, I think, my best performance of the year. I think that was the time on that specific terrain is one of the best performances on that course. In that terrain, in that race ever. And so regardless of how much the course has changed, that one's probably the one I'm going to look back on thinking like, okay, this is the one that went pretty much perfectly.
Nice. And that has 45,000 feet of vert.
Yeah. And I mean, vert is actually that's my strength, climbing and then that sort of thing. So Bigfoot's my favorite of the three races. My favorite course. It's I think the most unique and interesting area for me to run in. And yeah, that's the one that is closest to my heart.
Now the second place was closer to you in Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Now, did I hear that actually they were faster on course, but you were faster in and out of aid stations?
Yeah. So this is Brody, who I talked about running with that Moab as well. His moving time was actually more than an hour faster than mine, but my stop time in aid stations was more than 2 hours faster than his. So I won that race purely based on aid station efficiency.
Now, did you win? I heard this by 42 minutes.
Yeah.
I hope people picked up on it. That was amazing. His moving time was 1 hour faster than yours, but he gave up an hour 42 in aid station.
But yeah,
that's very cool because 100-mile people, actually marathoners for that matter, time in aid stations is for real.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah, and some people pay close attention to it and some people don't. I think courses like Hard Rock, it's really a big deal because you're out there in the mountains, it's night. Oftentimes the aid stations are hours and hours apart. You come into an aid station, it's kind of easy to say, hey, I'm just going to hang out here for a little while.
Yeah, it's easy to say, like, I want to take a breather, especially if you're cold, and you can get a little bit warm, but you don't want to allow yourself to get too comfortable, I think, if efficiency is one of your goals there.
Right. Well, Diane Finkel, who won the women's at Hard Rock. When I first saw her at Hard Rock, just kind of bumping into this topic for a second, 5 minutes out from the aid station, she would start be unbuckling her vest. And then she'd come into the aid station with her arm held out And then her partner would hand her another vest preloaded and she wouldn't break stride.
Totally.
And that's at a 100-miler that was taken over 24 hours.
Mhm.
People have different takes on aid station efficiency.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm not. I don't in these 200s. I haven't done the vest exchange mostly because you'd have to move the tracker, and I don't. I feel like that would actually take a little bit of extra time. But like for even for non-crude aid stations, I'll pre-mix all my drinks in Nalgene's and I'll have them in my drop bags, so I don't have to actually use anything at the aid station. I get there and all I'm doing is pouring flasks in my drop bags. I have a Ziploc with the gels I need ready to go, so I'm grabbing that and then I'm out. So my other than when I'm changing socks and shoes and clothes, my aid station stops in the 200s are 2 minutes, 3 minutes maybe.
2 to 3 minutes for a 200-mile event.
Yeah, I mean, my longest ones will be 12, and that'll typically happen twice, but that's changing socks, shoes, underwear, wiping down, taking care of all of the different things you need to take care of. But yeah, typically 2 or 3 minutes.
Super impressive. Okay, let's stay with this because my follow-up question has to be sleep deprivation.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, in the
You're
first
not
two,
napping in 12 minutes.
no, so I don't plan my sleep. I just I take dirt naps. So the first 2 races, the Tahoe and Bigfoot, I slept for about 5 minutes total. I think I was with my brother both times as my pacer, and he set a 6-minute timer to allow me to have a minute to fall asleep and then 5 minutes to be asleep.
A 6-minute? Okay, the listeners catch that, a 6-minute timer. So this is going hard.
Yeah, yeah. And then in Moab, I slept for 11 minutes. So with the
Total.
with the extra 40 miles, I added another 5 and gave myself a little more time to rest.
Now this is literally a dirt nap.
Yeah.
You say, okay, I'm feeling sleepy.
Well, it's not even just feeling sleepy. I wait until the moment where like my foot isn't even landing where I think it should be landing. Like my brain is no longer working. I want to be able to hit the dirt and be asleep in a split second. And so I'm waiting till that moment. And yeah, I mean, in Moab, it was a little weird with everything being wet, but at some point I was like, whatever, I just laid down a bunch of wet bushes and was out for 5 minutes in the LaSalle's.
Wow. This is very, I mean, it's kind of fun to hear. It's sort of interesting, but also it's informative because this sleep deprivation is a thing. I've talked to John Kelly about this very thing and other people, how they manage it, going back to adventure racing. And now with the dawn of 200-milers and multi-days and so forth, it's a real deal. And some people try to plan it.
Mm-hmm.
Like the TDG, the Tour de Géant, was John has never had his best day at that big race in Italy, 330 kilometers. And you try to plan sleep, but then they go lay down and you can't sleep.
Yeah, it's nothing worse than like laying down when you can't sleep. You're just wasting time.
That's the way the hardcore people view it. Exactly. Is that you lay down for 10 minutes, you just lost 10 minutes, but didn't get any sleep.
Mm-hmm.
So your strategy is you just blow the whole plan off. And as soon as you're about to hit the deck, you just hit the deck.
Exactly. I mean, it's basically like when I describe it as, if your computer is freaking out or something, you just press the on off button, you're resetting. And that's what I'm waiting for with the brain. If it's having the spasms and it's like uncontrollable, your eyes are closing, it's like, all right, we're just going to press the on off switch here.
And so 5 minutes gets it done.
It gets it done enough. I mean, entering a third night at Moab was interesting. I was having some like serious hallucinations and visual stuff going on. So I think the longer it goes, the more this would have to change. I haven't gone too far past like 58 hours is pretty much my longest race. I mean, I finished Cocodona in 85 a few years ago, but that was different. I was having all sorts of health problems and stuff. Yeah. So I think if you end up going into a fourth night, you're going to have things will probably have to be different. But for me, so far, this has worked.
Wow. Interesting. So, well, let's just wrap up the Triple Crown.
Yeah.
So there's other 200-milers, but Candace really is a progenitor of the 200-mile distance.
Yeah.
So these 3 are kind of marquee 200-milers. Again, be clear, there's many others now.
Mm-hmm.
And she's recently started a 300 in Arizona. And I asked her about that. She said, that might be too far. And part of it, it's just the logistics.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some aid station people. I joked to Candace, wow, there's aid station people out there for 2 days. And she said, more than that.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing what the volunteers are doing. And, just how much has to go into even just one person finishing one of those races, so it really does take a village in a lot of ways.
I like that. Takes a village. And so right now we're both going to say, thank you, volunteers.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, wouldn't be possible without them. Thank you, volunteers. Thank you to anyone who's ever crewed a runner who is not a runner. You're doing a lot for the sport, and just anyone who's come to help out. None of these events would go on without those people.
Literally.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, you could not put on one of these events without volunteers. I mean, if you tried to pay people, the entry fee would be $10,000.
Yeah.
I'm not sure who you'd get to do it.
No.
There's people out there on the Moab course. You're down south. They're hanging out in these 10 by 10 tents for over 2 days.
And I mean, it's like for Moab, for me, I was, far enough ahead of second place that the people at some of the later aid stations were going to see me, and then they were going to wait 8 hours before they saw the next person. So they're probably in their minds, they're like, damn it, if this guy was a little closer to the rest of the pack, like I wouldn't have had to be here 8 hours earlier.
Right. Oh, I love it. Okay. Well, wrapping up the Triple Crown. So you now have the course record by about 5.5 hours over Michael McKnight, a legendary person in the 200-mile space.
Yeah. Huge inspiration for me, for sure.
Okay. Okay. So Michael, that was back in 2019. Congratulations, Triple Crown. So that means the accumulative time for all 3 events, you're 5.5 hours faster.
Yeah. Thanks. I mean, just being in a position to break Mike's record is amazing. He's the person who got me into 200s in the first place. He's the reason I wanted to do it. And, that's 2019 is when he originally set the record. It's also the only other year that someone has won all 3 races. So this is only the second time that someone has had a clean sweep of all the Triple Crown 200s. So yeah, pretty special year overall.
Very. Speaking of you, quick perusal on Ultra Sign Up. By the way, everyone, this podcast is sponsored by Ultra Sign Up, so I'm happy to give them credit. They're doing a lot for the sport. They're a race registration site, but also they contribute massively to the sport. And you can go there and look up your favorite runner and say, hey, what's up? Or look up yourself. So I looked up you, Killian, and you've been a solid ultra runner for a number of years, but nothing really marquee, if I may say so.
Sure.
So you've made your mark on this Triple Crown. Well, prior to this, you've been really good, but I couldn't say you've made a mark.
Yeah, I mean, so there's a documentary coming out about my Triple Crown experience, and it's going to be called Forged in Failure. And the reason it's going to be called that is that I've been working at the 200-mile distance since 2022. Cocodona was the first 200 I tried. I tore my hamstring. The next year, I was running in Cocodona. This is 2023, and I was winning the race until mile 220. I have some allergy issues in Arizona. I ended up in the ICU with pulmonary edema. I still finished. So almost won that race, but a total collapse at the end of that race.
Well, let's just hit the pause button. Pulmonary edema at mile 220.
Yeah. So,
that's a harsh finish.
Yeah. So at mile 220-ish is where Mike McKnight actually caught me. He passed me, but then I got to in the last crude aid station and my O2 saturation was 82%. So, pretty bad. I slept for a long time, got a nebulizer treatment and finished the last 22 miles. But then later that evening ended up going to the ER. My O2 saturation was 72%. And so
you're dying.
Yeah. My vision was blurry. I was coughing up blood. It was really bad. Had pulmonary edema, basically got put on like the step below a ventilator. I think it's called a BPAP machine. And yeah, so that was obviously a terrible experience. But then, I mean, the year after that, so 2024.
Quick note, but you're happy to come back and do it again.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, I've believed ever since I towed the line at a 200 for the very first time that I was gonna win. Like every time I set foot on the start line of one of these races, my goal was winning.
I like it.
So there was no moment where I was like, oh, I'm gonna give up. But even the year after that, 2024, I DNF'd Cocodona and then I DNF'd Tahoe right in a row. And so I've had all these failures at the 200-mile distance leading up to 2025, and then this is the first year I'm tasting any sort of success. I mean, I can see why you'd sort of think like coming from out of nowhere, but in my head, it's like, oh, this has been 4 years in the making.
I like it. So results wise, you came out of nowhere, but not at all. And you've been really working at this for a number of years. You've come close for a number of years.
Yeah.
And if it's a DNF, well, we're not going to see your name.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, if you look at my ultra sign up, I've got a long list of DNFs, and proud of each one of those. You know, it's like, I think the biggest lesson from those is just like failure is not an opposite of success. You know, it's just a part of the process. And so you just have to embrace the fact that that's possible when you're doing these things.
Especially if you're going for a throwdown.
Yeah.
I mean, if you say, I'm going for a finish, like you said, you could have played Moab this last weekend safe, got the Triple Crown win. Instead, you didn't play it safe. You just went off the front.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's one of the things that's who I want to be. You know, I want to be the person with ambitious goals. I want to be honest about those goals. And if I fail, then I want to accept that. You know, I don't want to be the person who's hedging my bets.
All right. I like it. Good explanation there.
Thanks.
And then let's go right back to Moab here. It rained. I mean, some storms just came across the Colorado
the whole
Plateau.
time.
So I was out for a run this morning with a friend who was pacing someone who finished a really credible 10th place. And she said the Bentonite clay out there, there's a 2-mile section where you could hardly stand up. Now, were you ahead of that? You know what I mean?
No. So, I mean, I like take my 50 times on my watch. So I lap my 50s, and my third 50 was 13 hours and 13 minutes. And I remember thinking when I lapped it, I was like 28 miles of that was sticky mud. So there was an 18-mile section getting to Shea Mountain, which is about the halfway point in the race, all sticky mud. At one point I fell fully into a puddle, like completely submerged, but it didn't even make me any wetter. Like I was already so wet that I barely even noticed that I had just been in a puddle. But yeah, no, the mud was the single largest factor of the race. I'll remember it for the rest of my life. It was outrageous. Like I've never experienced anything like that for that amount of time.
And here we are in the desert.
I know. I was so prepared for heat. Like I'm really good in the heat, and I enjoy the heat. I was fine with it. But then what a year to do Moab. It's just wet from start to finish.
Well, there's an old saying. I'm particularly proud of this saying. There are 2 ways to die in the desert. 1, by not enough water, and 2, by too much water.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, happily I didn't encounter any flash flooding, but it was totally insane.
Wow. Well, I was wondering if you might have outrun it, but apparently not. Sorry about that.
No, I mean, it made it memorable, you know, and I hope that I'm really happy with the time given the conditions. You know, like my goal going in was 55 hours, and I think I would have probably hit that without a lot of the mud and other issues, because it just does so much to you other than slowing you down. You know, like I got to the LaSalle's and my climbing legs were totally smoked, which has never before happened to me. Like climbing is normally my safety portion of the race. It's like, this is what I'm going to be good at. But I think the mud, with your shoes weighing more and you're taking, 1.8 steps for every one step because you're not actually, getting where you want to go. Like, I think the mud just drained me. But it was memorable. It's one of those things where the hardest times are going to make the best memories. So I'm going to look back at a lot of those sections and I'm going to be like, wow, what a crazy adventure. But when you're in them, you're just like, please get me out of here.
Get me out of here. So I could ask, would you, because, it could be hot out here, obviously, and it was not, but you would have preferred the heat over the mud.
Definitely.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I'm good in the heat. I've got a sauna at home and it just doesn't bother me.
All right. And so you know how to carry enough fluid, enough electrolytes.
Yeah.
You make it work.
Yeah. But the mud, there's nothing you can do about it. No, other than laugh. I mean, there were just times where whoever was my pacer and I were just like hooting and hollering, laughing because it was just absurd. And I think that's better than crying. So
Right. Well, there's kind of two events going on. You were throwing down, going for the win, looking for a course record, being the best you could be. And there was a chunk of people trying to finish.
Mm-hmm.
So at 8 p.m. last night, I took a look around on the website and it was like, wow. At 8 p.m. last night, after 4 days and 8 hours, 66 people had finished and 46 people were still on the course.
Yeah.
So that's after 4 days and 8 hours. And there, you could see it on the track leaders map. They're clumped up.
Mm-hmm.
They're right up there on Porcupine Rim and Geyser Pass, and they were on the cutoff.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I do think it's a different experience when you're at the front or the back, and it's like those people at the back, they're warriors, like they're out there for days. And I always have the cheat code, I guess, in my brain where I can be like, I'm going to be done with this tomorrow, or I have one more night, but I can't like the mental side for them must be so strong. Like I imagine they just have to segment it into I'm getting to the next aid station, you know? Whereas I can kind of, I'll think about the whole race sometimes and it doesn't totally overwhelm me. But if you're going to be out there for, 4 days, I don't think you have the option to do that.
Right. You can smell the barn.
Yeah, there are times more in this race than any other race in my life where I was daunted by what was to come still. But yeah, I mean, I always say like at the beginning of one of these things, I'm going to be done in around 2 days. If Christmas was in 2 days, I'd be like, wow, Christmas is really soon. So really, I'm going to finish pretty soon.
I like that. Nice mental trick
Yeah.
to shorten the distance emotionally. I appreciate that. And of course, Moab is very much backloaded.
Yeah. I mean, was typically looking forward to the mountain sections because the runnable stuff, I think it's really exhausting. But yeah, I mean, it was backloaded both in terms of time and difficulty and in terms of mud, like the first 100, I mostly avoided the mud. And then after that, it was just huge sections of slog.
But coming down Porky Rim, which is listeners might be familiar with Porcupine Rim. It's one of the most famous mountain bike downhill routes, probably in the world. That's kind of gravelly, kind of rocky. So by then you should have been cruising a little bit.
I was hoping that I would be cruising, but so I was entering the third night and I was having this visual hallucination where different colored rocks were appearing at different depth perceptions for me. And it was making it really hard to run anything technical. And I didn't want to hit my toes because my feet were pretty messed up from being wet and muddy for that long. Which, side note, in the previous 2 races, 0 blisters, no foot problems at all. This race, my toes are jacked still. But yeah, coming down Porcupine Rim, I was just really having trouble seeing. So that was the primary challenge. So if you look at my splits, I was not moving all that quickly and I did not feel like it was particularly flowy. I've run that when I was fresh and I had fun, but when I was tired and struggling with my brain, it was kind of more of a challenge.
Well, let's get into that. So you finish, and I looked at I wasn't there, but I listened to your finish line interviews, and you just come across and people stick a microphone in your face and say, "How do you feel?" And if I may quote, you said, "I'm exhausted."
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I mean, it is funny when people ask you, how do you feel? Because even coming into some aid stations, how you feeling? I'm like, oh, okay, pretty good. But I'm like, in my head, I'm kind of like, well, if this was devoid of context and someone was just feeling all the things I was feeling all of a sudden, like they'd go to the ER, So the answer is bad. But yeah, how are you feeling at the finish line? Like, so dead. I was just relieved to not be running anymore.
And I think that's what someone asked. What was your favorite part of the course? And I think you said, right now, not running.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure that answer will change with time, but that's probably still my answer right now.
That's an honest answer, I think. And but like you say, it changes with time. That's it's an ultra runner trait, which I call short-term memory syndrome.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, at the times that F this, I'm never doing this again. Then 2 days later, I said, oh yeah, I think if I just did this or did that, I wouldn't have been throwing up 20 times. So let's go do it again.
Yeah. No, that's totally right. I think it's similar to like people say when women give birth, they forget about how painful it is. It's some sort of similar mental thing going on.
Right. Short-term memory syndrome is very helpful for this sport.
Yep.
Well, I appreciate your honesty and your insight. This is really helpful. And to continue in that vein, what do you do that's different? I mean, you swept the Triple Crown in one season. Only Michael McKnight has done that before. You're doing something different. I mean, you're obviously a good ultra runner, but what insights might you give other people?
So I think the aid station efficiency is a huge thing. So if you look in Moab, the tracker, I think, has it wrong. I think Strava and your watch do a better job of keeping track of your downtime. So for 58 hours in Moab, I only had 4 hours of downtime, which is really not too bad. So the efficiency is huge. I think, run a 2, if you're trying to be competitive, run a 200 like 100. And just it's 100 plus sleep deprivation. That's kind of how I think of these races now. And then one thing I've changed for myself personally is focusing a lot on the rest and recovery. So I think that, one of the pitfalls of endurance sports is obviously overuse injuries and just doing too much and thinking that more is always better. But that's just not the case. And so, approaching the race series this year, as opposed to just trying to peak for one or two 200s that are a little more spread apart, I was really mindful about, I'm going to show up to race day as healthy as possible rather than being really all in on training in between the races. So I was like, if I can fit in quality training, that's good. But if I can't, that's fine. And I just accepted that. So I think really
You prioritized rest.
yeah, exactly. And like looking at your race here in this holistic sense of like what is actually realistic for me to show up on race day and want to achieve is the only way to do it. And I think you just have to be honest with yourself about, are you going to be able to show up for, like when I was looking at the Triple Crown, I was like, I doubt I'll be able to show up for Moab in the same shape that I showed up for Tahoe. Like this just doesn't seem like that's a possibility. And so accepting that and then mitigating all of the circumstances in between there. So I think, I guess to go back to your question, like what am I doing differently? Like the aid station efficiency. And then I think I'm really good at looking at the entire picture of like my whole life and the stresses and the training load and all of these things and sleep, and adding that all together to create a compelling picture for success rather than just kind of being myopically focused on miles and running.
I like that. And there's another famous runner named Killian who says much the same thing.
That's good.
No, he says much the same thing. He says, it's diet, consistency, rest, and he has a very holistic approach as you do.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to hear you say that because obviously being doing something similar to the other Killian is probably going to be a good thing for me. So, but yeah, it's the big picture, and yeah, I would also say diet's a part of that. I'm very diligent with what I eat, and so yeah, I just don't. I try not to do too much. It's easy to do too much.
Right. Speaking of diet, I have to ask this really boring question. So for 58 hours, what are you eating? This can't just be simple sugars for that length of time.
I mean, to be honest, 95% gels.
It is simple sugars.
Yeah. So, I used to not be, this has changed for me this year, but, yeah. So 90 to 95% gels and drink mixes, and then 5 to 10%, rice. And I had a hamburger in this race. But yeah, mostly simple stuff. Like, for the first half of the races, I'm aiming for 90 grams of carbs an hour. And then I typically bump that down to about 60 for the second half of the race, as intensity and kind of your metabolism changes. But yeah, I mean, I don't know where the limit is for how long you can fuel on running food alone, but so far this has worked for me. And I think, I'm focused on being able to burn fat on, my easy recovery days. So I feel like I've got a good mix of the carbohydrates going in and then my natural metabolism being able to burn fat.
Gotcha. On your training days, so you might ease up a little bit to kick in the fat conversion.
Exactly. I typically don't fuel and I do any run under 2 hours that's not a speed workout fasted typically. So I'm typically doing those, focusing on fat burning, and then all my runs above 2 hours I'm fueling on like I will on race day.
Gotcha. Wow, you're methodical, Killian.
I do my best, I'm a coach too, so I've learned a lot from my athletes and working with them, but definitely it's been, like we talked about, 4 years of experimentation. So I've got a lot of personal data on myself now about what has and hasn't worked.
Excellent. So speaking of which, so this is a destination trail race. So, Google that if you want to enter. All these sell out in advance.
They do, yeah. There's typically wait lists and there's lotteries and those sorts of things.
Right. So if you want to do one of these, get on Destination Trail website. And if someone wants to be coached by you, where would they go?
So you can go to theeverydayultra.com. I'm currently full. I'll be honest. I'm not taking on new athletes at this point, but I will probably open up a little bit in my off season. But I'm terrified of ever letting anyone down, so I don't want to overstretch myself in that regard at all. But yeah.
What's the website again?
Theeverydayultra.com.
Okay. All right. And you're currently full, but spaces could be opening up.
Yeah, and Everyday Ultra has 7 coaches as a whole. So if you're interested just in working with the company, it's a good place to go. And Joe Corcione runs Everyday Ultra, and he's just a wonderful businessman, person, ultra running Guru. He's great. So yeah, it'd be worth looking into regardless.
Well, I've talked to a few friends about this, and they still have more questions for you. And one of the things that you just talked about, but a friend of mine really wanted to know more about is these are massive efforts. Like you're doing the simple sugar for like 2 days
Hmm.
and a little bit of recovery. But gosh, you try to think about 100-mile trail race, 3 in 1 summer, and now you think about a 200. So mainly it's just eat well, prioritize rest.
Yeah, I mean, I by eat well, I really focus on protein after races. So, I mean, I don't track any of my macros anymore, but I know what I need to eat. And so after races, it's protein, 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 sleep, rest, eat as much as I can, eat as much as I want, as long as it's kind of within my parameters. I stay away from things that I know cause me inflammation. So like I don't eat any gluten, for instance, and that sort of thing. So I just, have attempt to make all the smart decisions to optimize for this one specific activity.
You have. This is very interesting. So during that one specific activity, you go with pure running fuel, as one might describe it. But after that, you don't.
Yeah.
You don't. You move to that high protein diet, rebuild muscle, rest, et cetera, and then you do every run under 2 hours fasted.
Yeah, pretty much. It's not totally strict, but yeah, that's as close to true.
Gotcha. So you just very methodical in your overall training.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that it's just worth it to be mindful of all these different factors. Like, when we use the word holistic, it's like all of these things matter. What if, like, when I'm talking to athletes about nutrition, for instance, I always try to ask them, like, what's the meal that makes you feel the best? And if you don't have an answer to that, then I think you're probably not paying enough attention. And so I really just try to pay attention to how things make my body feel, and how am I feeling day to day. And that mindfulness has, been really key to knowing when to pull back, when can I push a little further.
Wow, very smart. This is an impressive conversation.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I think this is inspirational to everyone. It is to me. Very, very methodical, very smart. Is teaching me a few things about upping my own game.
Hey, that's cool. I mean, if I can teach you something, that's kind of amazing.
Well, thank you for saying that. So now I kind of have to ask. I mean, this is a rude question because you just finished this giant summer. What might be next?
Yeah, that question I would have been grumpy about answering that right after the race, but no, I'm already thinking about things for sure.
Okay.
So I've got the Cocodona 250 next year. I'm already signed up for that and entered. And then I'm planning on going for the Colorado Trail FKT. The Colorado Trail has been on my list since I got into the sport, since 2018. I finally feel ready to attack that. I've already talked to the record holder, Kyle Curtin, getting some advice from him about how to approach it. So that's what I'm looking for next year.
And Kyle's a 200-mile guy also.
Yeah. So it's been really good. I mean, and the best thing about the sport is how supportive we all are of each other. So it's going to be, it has been interesting, and it will be interesting to just get more information about that. But yeah, I'm thinking the first 2 weeks of August next year, one of those weeks, I'm going to go for the Colorado Trail.
That'll be supported.
Yeah, definitely.
Wow, interesting. I of course used to have the record on the Colorado Trail. What a great route. I think doing it supported makes a fair amount of sense.
Yeah.
Because there's so much access. You're not punishing people by having them drive all over the place.
And it's more fun.
Yeah, it's more fun. It's an accessible trail in reality. When you get down to the San Juan, you get up there, there's some high points. But other than that, you're crossing roads.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right. Kyle Curtin was at the Rufa Moab this April. So I'm going to put in a plug right here, right now. Run Up for Air. Have you heard of the Run Up for Air? Oh my gosh. So you could Google these. It was started by Jared Campbell to publicize bad air quality in Salt Lake City. So it's timed events. How many laps can you do on a mountain? So start off with Grandeur Peak outside of Salt Lake City. 6, 12, 24 hours. How many laps can you do? So now there's 7 Rufas, and there's 1 in Moab.
Yeah.
And you live in Grand Junction. You're an hour 30 from here. Next, first Saturday in April, Roof of Moab, Moab Rim Trail. How many laps can you do in 3, 6, or 12 hours? And this April, Kyle Curtin handily won the 12-hour event.
Nice.
So if you want to beat Kyle's record on the Colorado Trail.
Yeah, I should probably be able to beat his Moab Rim ever.
I'm just saying that you got a mark to get here now.
Yeah, definitely. Something to think about for sure.
Right. And of course, you're like the ups. You're strong in the uphills. So,
Yeah.
the Roof of Moab has 900 feet of gain in 1 mile. Perfect for you.
Yeah.
And it's dry. There's no mud.
No mud sounds good. I could go the rest of my life without touching mud and be pretty happy.
Well, this is terrific. You've taught us all a lot. And thanks for the inspiration and the methodical nature that you've done. Wow, what a scene. The 200-mile racing is so interesting. You went home to Grand Junction, took a shower, ate, caught up on everything, and then came back here to watch the finish of the race.
Yeah, I mean, I've never had the opportunity to be at the end of a race before because I've always just finished and had to kind of get back to my life, But having the opportunity to come and see the golden hour was amazing, see some friends, and just to be a part of the end of race party was cool. And yeah, it is an interesting scene. I mean, it's growing for one. The races are becoming more and more competitive, so the front of the field is getting faster and faster. I hope that I have played my small part in pushing that forward, but yeah, it's an exciting area of the sport, I think.
Excellent. We look forward to seeing how 2026 works out, and we hope we see you in Moab again for Saturday in April.
Yeah, well, I'll keep that in my plans.
Thanks, Killian.
Thanks, Buzz. I appreciate you talking to me.
Thank you for joining me. I feel like I'm with all my friends. This is Buzz Burrell, and I'll be back 2 weeks from today, delivering more thoughts you've probably never heard before. This podcast is a production of Ultra Sign Up and releases every other Tuesday, alternating with The Trailhead with Zoe Rome and Brendan Leonard. If you've enjoyed this, please subscribe and click that button that says 5 stars, because that helps